Good evening. I'm doing an experiment on trying to stay outside. Can you hear me well? Can you see me and can you hear me well? Yes, there are birds singing. They love this time of the day. We will wait a few more moments. But please, as we wait, join me. Join me just to be here now. So we share this moment now. I don't know how it will be. I am outside now, and I don't know how the light will be in half an hour or so. If it gets very difficult to be here, I will move inside, so we may have to stop for 2 or 3 minutes so I accommodate myself inside. And originally I had, on the very, very first time, I had thought to do it through Zoom, these meetings. But then because so many people sign up, there was no way to do it through Zoom. But of course, people do it once or twice and then they are not so persistent. And so if the numbers are like this, next time we will do it in Zoom. And the good thing in Zoom is that we can actually talk to each other. Here you can only write and see me. But with Zoom, we can see each other. I can see you also, and you can see me. And also we can talk. So for the next time that we do this kind of talks, I will try to do it through Zoom. To join Zoom now, and I'm not so good at this technology, so I don't know how quick I can be to organize a meeting. Maybe we leave it for next time. I need to get familiar with the technology and how to mute and unmute and. It's very nice what Anna says. She says, seeing your face is purely joy. But what it means is that seeing my face, you see yourself, Anna. It's not seeing my face that is the joy, it's that you see yourself through my face. Because right now, what I represent is yourself. So it is fine for a while to look outside, but the looking outside is to bring you inside, not inside in the body, not inside in the mind, but inside in your real self, this aware, silent presence that we are. It's the same with Gabriela. Gabriela says the sound of the birds is so beautiful, and it is very beautiful. But the sound of the birds, they should also, we hear the sound of the birds and we hear them outside, but they should somehow, in time, we need to learn to, for the sound of the birds or whatever it is, to bring us back into ourselves. Ourself, I don't mean to the body and to the mind, although that's a good first step. From being lost in the world, we are turned around, we come first into the body, we come into the mind, but then we start to look around of the birds. It's not so easy to realize, but the same thing that is aware of the birds, the same thing is also aware of the body and is also aware of the mind. a sense of peace and satisfaction and completion. That's what, to put it in one word, the sense of peace and satisfaction and completion, we can say that we are all looking for happiness. And by happiness, I mean exactly that, a sense of being at peace with oneself and with the world. Have a sense of completion, a sense of satisfaction. And everybody, no matter what they do, no matter what they think, no matter what their beliefs are, everybody's looking for that. And there are many different ways that people look for that. We could say that there are as many ways as people. But generally speaking, we can say that most people look for that, looking outside. They feel that they don't have it inside. They look inside, they feel their hearts, and they feel that in their hearts, they neither have peace, quite the opposite. They don't feel any kind of satisfaction, or very rarely, and they don't feel any kind of completion, very rarely. And so they feel inside, they don't find this peace, satisfaction, and completion. They don't feel this happiness. And so the only obvious way is they open their eyes and they look outside, and they try to look and they try to find it outside. And then all our activities, everything that we do, becomes a means to find this happiness. But the activities that we do are all reflected outside. We believe that by getting the things from the world, by getting, as I often say, what do we look for? We look for relationships, we look for jobs, we look for recognition, we look for fame, we look for stability, we look for security. All these things, we hope that sooner or later, hopefully sooner than later, but we keep doing, and we don't seem to find it. But we hope that the sum of all these things, or at least one of these things, will one day bring me this satisfaction and completion that we all look for. But the experience that people have is that they don't find it. The problem is that we don't really realize this. We think that we don't find it because we didn't find the one thing that will finally give it to us. Like if we are rich, we think that, well, we don't have a good relationship. And if we have a good relationship, we think that it's because we are not rich. Or if we are rich and we have a good relationship, but we think it's because we don't have kids. Or if we have the kids, it's because they are too young and we are waiting for them to grow up. Or because we didn't travel enough around the world. Or because there is always something that is missing. And I mean, we could have a whole talk about this. And so we keep looking for that outside. As I said, I would just like to open it and then we can have some questions and answers. That's my son. But we can just say at a certain point of maturity, we start to realize, we start to recognize that no matter how much we do in the world, although we do get some kind of satisfaction and completion, for a long time, when we get something that we want, let's say you fall in love and then you get the relationship that you want. Let's say you do get it. Many times you don't, but let's say you do get it. For the moment that you get, for a while, you do feel at peace, satisfied, and complete. But it doesn't last very long. And it's the same with everything.
El cargador está ahí abajo. No tengo más batería en mi tablet. Hi, everybody.
And so, with some maturity, we start to see that as much as wonderful things, like my son, as much wonderful things that one can get in the world, they don't give lastly happiness, lastly peace and satisfaction and completion. There's always something missing, something more is needed, something more is needed. And then many things can happen, but to go, we can say that we start to see that something else is needed. And one name that this something else can take is spirituality. This is it's a long subject that I'm making it very, very, very condensed. There are many steps between the recognition that the outside world doesn't give me satisfaction to being interested in spirituality. There is a long gap there, but I'm going directly there. And we start to think that there is something missing that is not in the world. And we can call that spirituality. And I imagine that at least the majority of you that are here in this talk are somehow or another interested in what can be called spirituality. A short introduction, but one way to approach this, what is this spirituality, how to what to do, 3 or 4 kinds of yogas. Since we can say that I am a yoga teacher, I will speak from the point of view of yoga, but you can talk about this from many different points of view, and often I do. I bring different points of view to speak about this same idea. But right now, I'm going to talk about the idea of 4 yogas, or I will reduce it to 3 kinds of yogas. And just to give it a name, and I will use this Sanskrit name, there will be what is called Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. These are all Sanskrit names. I will describe them now. You can talk for weeks about each one of these yogas. I'm just going to spend about 5 minutes on each of them, more or less. Yoga of devotion. Karma Yoga is the yoga of action. Raja Yoga is the yoga of concentration or focus. And Jnana Yoga is the yoga of knowledge. And it's the combination of these four yogas what can help us to discover this inner happiness, inner well-being, inner satisfaction, inner peace. Elena says that I am interrupting very often. Does everybody feels that way? Is it interrupting very often? It could be. The internet has been very sporadic here. I guess too many people are using the internet. Yes. Thank you again. Please tell me if it keeps interrupting. I will go inside. Probably will be better inside. So the Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion, I put it together. In my case, you will find that very completely separated in other places. But in my case, I put the Bhakti Yoga together with the Karma Yoga because Bhakti Yoga is very much related to devotion towards something that you can call God. And I will explain a little bit more about it. And I never had this programming in my education. I never had this religion, although I was always looking for God. Since I was very, very young, I was always, yes, that's how you write it. I was always, my search was always a search for God. Even though I had that search, I never had any religious upbringing at all. So I don't have that, but you will see how I connect this Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, to Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. You will the Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are a way to take care of the problems that we have in relation to the world. The problem that we have in relation to the world is anxiety, stress, fear for the future, regret for the past. How do we take care of these problems? What is important for spirituality is to have a mind that is very centered, very quiet, very clean, very pure. By a pure mind, what I mean is a mind that doesn't have all these problems, all these troubles, these difficulties, these problems, these anxieties, these worries. And so the way to take care of these problems is to the way that we act. We are acting all the time. At every time we are doing things. And the way we do things, why do we do things? We do things because we want to get a result or because we want to get away from something that we don't like. That's most of our acts are based on that. I want to get something that I want because I believe that by getting that, I'm going to be more happy. Or I reject something because I believe that if that thing gets close to me, I'm going to be more unhappy. So we either move towards things or we move away from things. And every time myself. Karma Yoga, and I will explain now the connection to Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga is the recognition that aware of a much larger reality which involves everything. I call it life, and that everything is inside that life. And so when I'm going to act, I don't act. Instead of thinking that I'm going to eat for me because I am hungry, I can think of Carmen said that is still interrupting often. So, yep, I'm sorry. Okay, so I am going to take a short break. I will not stop the stream. There will be some movement and I will go upstairs. So it will take about 2 minutes. So if you want to take some water or something, and we will reconnect. I will not stop the stream. You will just see some movement in the camera, but I will go upstairs so we can continue there. No. Can you see me and can you hear me well? I hope you are still there. Are you still there? I don't see anybody writing, so I'm not sure. Maybe everything got lost. No, you're still there. Oh, good. Okay. So hopefully we will not have so many interruptions here. Still breaking up. So if it's still breaking up, there is nothing we can do. This is the best place the closest I can be to the internet. And so I was saying that we we need to learn. It's something that we need to learn. It's not something that we are born with. We need to learn to start to act with the sensation that we are not acting for ourselves, but we are acting for the whole of life. And one very simple example, but this has to be taken to everything. For example, even when we eat, we are hungry and we go to eat and we said, I need to eat. But instead of thinking, I'm going to eat for myself, we need to think, I'm going to eat because this body is hungry. This body is something that belongs to life. So I am going to do something for life. What I'm going to do, I'm going to feed this body. So I'm not going to eat for me, but I'm going to eat for the whole of life. Because if this body doesn't eat, a little piece of life is going to die. So in order to feed life, I'm going to feed this body. It's just an attitude. It's just a way to think about things. And it is the same with everything that we do. It is a way to act. That's what karma is. It's a way. Karma means action. Karma has many, many meanings. From this point of view, karma is action. And karma yoga is the action that I do, paying attention to a bigger reality. Now, once I do everything for the bigger reality, once I do something, for example, I am going to feed my body. And I feed my body as a way to take care of life. Now, what I'm doing is I'm offering this food, I'm offering this action of eating to life. Life, what I mean by life is this larger reality. Once I offer this eating to life, then the response to my action, every action has a response. Every action has a response. What I can do is I can do my action, but the response of that action is not up to me. I don't know what's going to happen to me after I eat. So I act for life, and then life gives me a result. And that result, I take it as a gift. I take it as a gift from life. And so anything that happens to me is a response of life. Is the response of my action that I give to life. Life responds back to me. And so everything that happens to me, I take it as a response from the whole of life. And if it's a response from the whole of life, I take it as it is, whatever it is. It is what life can offer, whatever that is. And so what this does is that if one understands this, and it takes a while to understand it, it's not so easy to perfect this idea of karma yoga. But when one starts to understand this, the effect that it has is that I stop to worry about what happens to me, because everything that happens to me is a response of life, a response of the universe. Or if I have this bhakti connection, I can say everything that happens to me is a response from God in this moment. And so I stop worrying about what happens to me, and I take everything that happens to me as a response of life, as something that life is bringing in this moment. For example, this moment right now, that we are sitting right now, this is a response of life to ourselves. And so we take it as that. And one of the things that we start to do when we have this attitude is a sense of gratefulness. In this case, it's something nice. We are together talking about this beautiful subject. So we are very grateful for this. But let's say something not so good happens. We have a sickness, we have a pain. It's also life, it's the whole of life appearing in this moment, bringing this. And instead of taking it, oh no, I hate this, what happened, I don't want this to happen. Instead of taking it that way, I take it, this is a response of life. And I'm going to do the best that I can with what life is giving me. This is a whole way of living. Because we are acting all the time. In my book, there is a note which I explain pretty well, I think. This idea is called, I think it's called The Science of Life. I forgot the name. I forgot the name. If somebody remembers, you can write it there. I think it's called The Science of Life. So, and you can see how you can put bhakti and karma yoga together, because it's very much living with devotion, living your life with the awareness that there is something higher. And every act that you do it thinking of this higher principle. And everything that happens to you is coming from this higher principle. And if everything you do it for the higher principle, and the higher principle is responding to you, then there is no more place for worry, there is no more place for anxiety. And so what this karma yoga and bhakti yoga does is that it takes care of this problem that we have with the world. I mean, as I said, I am making it very, very simple. It's a very complex idea. It's a beautiful idea. It's a wonderful idea. Yes, thank you, Gabriela. It's dealing with worries, the science of life. Exactly. That's the note. I recommend you to read it. To read it and then to practice it, to keep it in your mind all the time. We are acting all the time. Everything, every little thing that we do, drinking a glass of water, taking care of your family, taking care of your body, going to work, whatever you do, bring it into mind. You will see, it will transform your life. It will transform your life in a beautiful, amazing way. So that's one of the yogas. The two yogas, but I put the two yogas into one. The other yoga that I mentioned is the Raja Yoga. The Raja Yoga is the yoga of, we can call it, it's a very big idea, but very briefly, it's the yoga of focus, the yoga of concentration. Our mind is always in 1,000 places. It's always very like taking all the time from here to there, especially in our time and age. We have very little capacity to focus, to concentrate. And Raja Yoga is, we can also call it Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana is meditation. It's the yoga of meditation, the yoga of focus, the yoga of concentration. And so having the practice of meditation, having the practice of daily meditation is fundamental. It's fundamental to learn to focus the mind, to quiet the mind, to be able to keep the mind in one subject. Actually, one definition for dhyana, which is this meditation, is the continuous flowing of one thought. Generally, we have the continuous flowing of many thoughts. I'm hungry, I don't have money, I am worried, my past, my future, my relationships, my health, my kids. We have 1,000 different thoughts continually running from one to the other one. In Zen, they call it the monkey mind. The monkey that is jumping from branch to branch. And this Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, is the possibility to focus the mind and to have one thought. The one thought or one idea that I want to concentrate on and to be able to focus on that one idea. And for that, the formal meditation, like meditation that we did this morning, or any meditation. What we did this morning was one example out of hundreds of possibilities. But to have a daily practice, or as often as one can, but to have a formal time, let's say 10 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, whatever one can do, but to try to have this practice. The best is always at the same time, always in the same place. It helps the mind. It helps very much the mind. So that's one aspect of it, the formal meditation. And then the informal meditation is to continually, in our everyday life, to bring the mind back. That's something that we do a lot in our classes, in the Yogilates classes, to continuously bring the mind back into the moment. Whatever you're doing, don't be too unfocused. Don't think of too many things. Try to keep bringing the mind back into the moment. Of course, if you're in the office and you're doing many things, we are multitasking, that's how it is. Yes, Elena, I recommend that we do the formal meditation daily. I know it's very difficult, many people don't do it, and that's okay. But I recommend that we do the daily meditation every day, and I recommend that we do the daily meditation always at the same hour, and I recommend that we do the meditation always in the same place. Then we do what we can. But it's very helpful to do this meditation daily in the same place and at the same hour. So these two ways to meditate, one the formal thing and one daily, all the time, keep bringing the attention back into the moment. Practice this returning to the moment, returning to the moment. You can say, if the moment is too abstract, you can say, bringing the attention back into the breathing, bringing the attention back into the sensations of the body. So that will be the Raja Yoga. In very general terms, you can go much deeper into it, but in very general terms. And then the third yoga is what is called the Jnana Yoga, or the Yoga of Knowledge, which means, at the very superficial level, it means we need to study. It's not enough just to practice the Karma Yoga. The Karma Yoga is wonderful. And the Raja Yoga, the concentration, the meditation is wonderful, but it's not enough. We need to learn what I call spiritual knowledge. And the only way to learn is to study it. And so reading, studying, if one finds a teacher, to follow a teacher, to read, to hear a teacher speaking about different ideas, is for example, to really understand what is Karma Yoga, to really understand what is Raja Yoga, one cannot just learn it on one's own. One needs to hear the theory behind. This is at the very superficial level. And then at the deeper level, Jnana Yoga is the knowledge of oneself. And by the knowledge of oneself, I mean start to ask the question, who am I really? Who am I really? And the investigation into that question, it requires an enormous amount of study. Because there are many ways to understand this, but we are all looking for something that is going to give me, as I said at the very beginning, we are looking for something that is going to give me the peace and satisfaction. And when we look for something, we always look for something outside, even if it's not in the world. Still, we think that is something that one day we are going to get. We are looking for something, and so we think that the something is something that is not here now because I'm looking for it. So when I look for something that is somewhere else. And that something else one day is going to come into myself. But what Jnana Yoga does is that is the teaching, is the information that what you are looking for is not outside. And it cannot be it's something you cannot get because it's something that you already are. Yes, exactly, Anna. We are the consciousness that experience the world. And the recognition of that consciousness, but the recognition, the understanding that that consciousness is not in the brain. It's a recognition that that consciousness doesn't come and go. It's a recognition that that consciousness is already at peace, is already satisfied, is already complete. So what we are looking for is peace. What we are looking for is satisfaction. What we're looking for is completeness. And that peace and satisfaction and completeness that we don't feel in ourselves and we are looking outside, Jnana Yoga is the teaching that that peace and satisfaction is already at the essence of what we are. But we don't recognize it. We are not aware of it. So it's not something that we need to do to get it. It's something that we need to rediscover. It's something that we need to learn. It's something that we need to see that is already in ourselves, right here and now. And this recognition requires an enormous amount of study. And that study is this Jnana Yoga. And so there are three branches, we could say. There is the branch of Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, which is the taking care of how we relate to the world. Then there is the Raja Yoga, which is the focusing and the taking care of this very sporadic mind, this mind that continues move, and to be able to strengthen the mind and focus the mind. And then there is this Jnana Yoga, which is the study of what is that is really here and now. Who am I? What is really looking through my eyes? I mean, I think that what is looking through my eyes is me, Carlos, and I think this Carlos was born one day and one day is going to die. And this poor Carlos is always suffering because he's getting old and the hair is falling and he has many problems, especially now in his left side. He has a lot of pains and he's worried because things are going to get worse and there is this coronavirus and he's always worried about things. But am I really that? Am I really that? No, I'm not. I am the awareness, aware of that. And that awareness doesn't have these problems. Leah asked, why do we forget who we really are? Well, to start with, it's not that we forget who we really are, it's that we don't know what we really are. We really believe that we are this body-mind. We really believe that we are this person. And so that's why is that we need to relearn what is that we really are. And this relearning is a whole study. But many people are not interested in that. That goes too deep. But the karma yoga and the raja yoga, that's something is a little bit more available, and all of us should spend quite a bit of time interested in that. But that's the point. In order to be interested in that, you have to have a certain maturity. And what do I mean by the maturity? The maturity is the recognition that what I'm really looking for, which is this peace and satisfaction and completeness, this true happiness, cannot be found outside in the world. And this is not so easy, it takes some time. The most important power that we have is our attention. And where is our attention going? Our attention goes to what is most important to us. Not what we think is important, but what actually is important. Like, for example, many people, this is very common for many people. Many people love their family. They truly, I have no doubt that they love their family. But many of those people that truly love their family, they pay very little attention to their family. I mean, people complain that the wife or the husband complain that the other person is not paying enough attention. Many people love their kids and they don't pay enough attention. Why is that? Because they pay a lot of attention to their businesses, to their studies. Because why? Because although they love their family, they love much more their security, or they love much more their possibility to become something. And so most of their attention is going there. It's going into becoming something in the world, or into becoming more secure by getting more money or buying more properties or whatever it is. So where our attention goes is really in our everyday life, where our love is going. And for our attention to go into the karma yoga is a very difficult thing to do, because it requires an enormous amount of presence, an enormous amount of attention, an enormous amount of dedication. And to do these meditations daily, or to every day, to bring the mind back, it takes a lot of energy. And for this energy to be there, available, a lot of valuation for this spirituality has to be there. And the valuation for spirituality is only there when we understand the benefit of it. And what is the benefit of it? The peace and satisfaction and completion that I'm looking for, that I know, because of my maturity, I know that it cannot be found outside in the world. Okay, as usually, I talk much more than I was hoping. But if it's okay for you, I can stay here for another half an hour. Of course, you can go anytime you want to. But I can stay here for another half an hour, and let's open it to questions. I don't mean, please don't expect that I will know the answer to every question. So if something I don't know, I will tell you that I don't know. I can try to research it and then come back to you if I don't know it. But I will do my best. So Daniel, hello Daniel, thank you for your question. He says, can you please say a few things about food and fasting? And how can we approach this subject for our well-being? Thank you. There's so many things that can be said about that. I will say, I mean, really, you could speak for hours, but I will say a few things that come into my mind right now. The first thing is, don't get too lost in food and fasting. Pay attention to food in the sense of eat a healthy diet. A healthy diet is fundamental for a quiet mind. Eat a more sattvic diet, and for that, in my book, you can, if you find the note a sattvic mind, at the end of this note, or somewhere there in this note, you will see a list of foods that are more sattvic. So try to eat a sattvic diet. Try to make your sattvic life, not just food. Try to bring sattvic things in your whole life. By sattvic means objects, and food is an object, or music, or people, or activities that create a more quiet mind. For example, a beer and a pizza make your mind very heavy. A meal full of meat, heavy sauce, it makes your mind very, very heavy. If you drink a lot of coffee and very spicy food, it makes your mind very quick, very fast. It makes your mind very agitated. So heavy food is tamas. This coffee and spices is a rajasic mind, and more kind of grains and salads and fruits and vegetables is more a quiet, is more a sattvic mind. Fasting, I find the fasting once in a while is a very healing thing for the body, and I think it's wonderful to do fastings. Even just to do the fastings of the Eastern religion is wonderful. It's wonderful for the body, and it's wonderful for the will to have an interruption to something that you like. For example, the fastings of the Eastern religion, that for a long time you cannot eat meat, is wonderful. And it's very healing for the body, and it's very healing for the will, to have the capacity to say no to something that I am accustomed to have. So I do recommend you to do to eat good meals. I would recommend you to do fasting regularly, once in a while, to have some fastings, but all in the name of having a quiet mind. So a quiet mind can think better about the nature of reality. Let me see if there is anything else about. In the old Greeks used to say that the best way to tame our will is through food. And I think we need to have a good will, a tame will, a capacity to be able to say no to things. And the best way to tame, to work on our will, is through food. So I don't recommend any particular diet. I don't think that we should worry too much about diet. But I think we should eat healthy in the sense of saying no to things that are not good for us. And it doesn't mean that we cannot have a good piece of chocolate cake, but have one once in a while, but don't have two. For example, just a way to say it. Create a discipline in what you eat, when you eat, and how you eat. Have discipline. Don't eat all day long. Create a good discipline and pay attention to it and be aware of it. Okay, I'm sure there are many more things to say. I will go to another question. What do you think about death? Death is the opposite side of the coin of life. If there is life, it has to be death. It's a logical thing. Sometimes it's not so easy to understand, but it's impossible to have life without having death. Because life without death is not life. It's something else. I don't know what it will be. Life implies death. It's like if you say up, you cannot have up without having down. It's impossible. Up without down is not up. It's something else. So, I know it's a very philosophical idea, but we love life, and by loving life, at the same time, we need to learn to love death. I know it's a very strange thing to say, but we need to, the only way to have a good life, is to not be afraid of death, to be at peace with death. And the way to be at peace with death is to bring into mind that we are going to die, that this body mind is going to die. And we don't know when. And to be at peace with the fact of death. Because it is life. Death is life. Also, we can say life is death, death is life. They are the same thing. It's like up and down. They are the same thing. And then, having said that, there is also the recognition that spirituality talks about something, and it's not something, but it talks about a factor that doesn't die. And the essence of spirituality is the recognition of that factor that doesn't die. And that factor that doesn't die is not somewhere else. The factor that doesn't die is actually the factor that is looking through our eyes. This awareness, aware of the body and aware of the mind, that awareness doesn't die. What does that mean? Understanding what that means is at the very heart of true spirituality. So further is the recognition that death is life, and that I, as a body-mind, this Carlos, this person that is right here, that was born 54 years ago in Buenos Aires, this person is going to die. And to find, and this is the whole of philosophy, to find peace in that recognition of death. And then the next step is the recognition of this factor. It's not a factor, it's much deeper than that, much more personal than that, much more immediate than that. This factor that doesn't die. Another question. That was a very profound question. Of course, you can spend hours talking about it. Alexandru asked, will you include Hatha, asanas, pranayama in Raja Yoga? Yes, because Hatha is actually these asanas. Raja, you can call Raja Raja Yoga. You can also call it the Ashtanga Yoga, the yoga of Patanjali. Don't worry if you don't know these names. Don't worry for it. But Patanjali created this 8-step yoga. And the 4th step in this 8-step yoga is, or the 4th or the 3rd step, is asana. Asana is the position of the body. And often in Hatha Yoga, you call the exercise, you call them asanas. And actually, asana is the position of the body in which one can sit comfortably. And so, yes, definitely, Hatha Yoga helps a lot to keep the body healthy so I can sit comfortably in meditation. And believe it or not, that's the real aim of Hatha Yoga. Or at least in the Patanjali Yoga, which is the Raja Yoga, the aim of Hatha Yoga is to work on the body so one can sit more comfortably without pain for a long periods of time in meditation. And pranayama it helps a lot to quiet the mind. They are breathing exercise to help to quiet the mind. So absolutely, yes. Pranayama and asana are part of Raja Yoga. Yes, mantras in Bhakti Yoga. Definitely, a large part of Bhakti Yoga is singing to the Lord, is connecting to the Lord, connecting to God. And one way to connect to Lord is through singing mantras, is through the recitation of mantras. And it is a beautiful thing. If you have this connection to it, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to connect with something higher. Through prayer, through meditate, through prayer, through singing, through the repetition of prayer, through the repetition of mantras. It's a very beautiful thing, and it brings an enormous amount of joy. We in the West, we don't have so much. Maybe here in Bucharest, there is a bit. Here in Romania, in the eastern part of Europe, there is a bit more of that. And if you have it, bring it back to you. Instead of spending your time thinking about your worries, your problems, your past, your future, bring into your mind a mantra and repeat the mantra in your mind continuously, as often as you can. When you don't have to think about something precisely, something in particular, bring a mantra to your mind and repeat the mantra. Whatever mantra is, it could be an Indian mantra in Sanskrit, or it could be a Jesus prayer. Repeat that mantra, bring that mantra into your mind, and connect to a higher principle in your everyday life. If you have this education in you, you're very lucky. Bring it back. use it. And yama niyama in karma yoga. Yama niyama are the moral principles. And yes, you can actually definitely bring the yama niyama in karma yoga. No, they are not a different approach. They are that approach. It just the subjects are very large, and you can approach them from so many places. But yes, I would say yes to all of them. And Ali asked me, how can we balance the life of non-attachment with coping with the needs of living the life, of living everyday life? It's precisely what karma yoga is. That's exactly what karma yoga is. You do what you have to do, trying to understand that what you're doing is not just benefiting you, but it's benefiting the whole of life. Or it's benefiting life. Of course, we cannot benefit the whole of life, but for example, by feeding myself, I am feeding life. Just to bring that into your mind. So, I feed my body, but then I don't attach to the result of this feeding, meaning I don't know if I'm going to live another 20 years or if I'm going to die tomorrow. It's not up to me, that's up to life. Life is going to decide what's going to happen to me. All I can do is to feed myself, and all I can do is to try to feed myself with the best possible food that is within my possibilities to acquire. So I do that, not for me, but I do that as a way to, because I love life. And so I feed myself, and I feed anything that I can feed. I feed my plants, and I feed my family as a way to feed life. And I try to feed the plants, and I try to feed myself with the best fuel. Fuel is food, with the best fuel that I can offer to life. But then I don't attach to the result of my action. And the result of my action is I feed myself, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. Am I going to be healthy? Am I going to be non-healthy? Am I going to die tomorrow? I'm going to live for another 100 years? I don't know. I don't attach to that, because that's not something that has to do with me. It's something that has to do with life. And so I'm not attached to it. I'm only doing what I can do, which is my action, which is my attitude, which is the attitude that I have for my action. But then the result of that action, which the attachment, try to think of it, our attachment is always toward the result of our action. For example, if I eat good food, I expect that I'm going to live healthy and a long life. And my attachment is to my living healthy. I want to live healthy, and I want to live a long life. But that's not up to me, because even if I eat very healthy food, and I am a good example of that. I've been always pretty aware of what I eat and the gym that I do, and I've been always a very healthy guy. And 10 years ago, I got this thrombosis in my spine that left me paralyzed. And it was a horrible thing. That was 10 years ago. And about 6 months ago, something started to happen on the place when I had this thrombosis, and my hip started to decay. I don't know how to say it, but I have a lot of pain. Almost daily, I have an enormous amount of pain on my left side, very close to where I had my thrombosis. And what can I do about it? I can only do the best I can. And non-attachment is that. Non-attachment is I do what I can do, but I don't attach to the result of what I do. It's a Andali is a whole science. Remember, in my note, I call it the science of life. But it's a very beautiful question, and it's a question that we need to think very often. How do I do exactly what you say? How do I balance the life of non-attachment with coping with the needs of everyday life? Beautiful asked. And there is an answer. And the answer is this karma yoga. Read my note, and then hopefully we can do this again and we can come back to this if you have some more other questions about it. Anna says, maybe a special session on food and fasting. I eat too much since I quarantine, home isolation. I understand, and there is an enormous amount of pressure that we have. How do we do not to eat so much? It's very difficult. That's where we need the discipline, and discipline is a very difficult to do. Very difficult because we are not disciplined. It requires an enormous amount of strength to refrain from us. Not as it shouldn't be a refrain like a morality. It needs to be an understanding that I need to develop my self-will. I need to develop a power in myself. I need to develop the power of discipline. Because if I don't have discipline, starting with the food, it would be very difficult to have a discipline in anything. And a spiritual life requires an enormous amount of discipline. But we can say, even if you want to become rich, it requires an enormous amount of discipline. If you want to become a doctor, it requires an enormous amount of discipline. Different kinds of discipline. You can become a doctor and completely lose your discipline of food. And there are many people that study a lot, but then they get very sick because they kept eating while they were studying. But they were very disciplined in keeping the attention in their studies. But I do believe that discipline with the food is fundamental. It's very, very important. Not just that I believe, that come from the Greeks 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. And imagine, for them, that was the main discipline. And how much access they have to food compared to how much access we have to food. There is no comparison. Anka asked, what can we do to trust others? How can we overcome this lack of trust? Well, first thing that comes to my mind is we need to trust ourselves. And what we can trust is that everybody is doing in the moment what they think is the best. The problem is that many times what people think is the best, it could be something that will hurt something else. So everybody's looking for happiness. Everybody's looking for peace and satisfaction and completion. Everybody is. Even the worst people in the world, they're looking for that peace. It's just that they think that that peace resides in hurting other people or in taking things from other people. But everybody, whatever they do, they are doing it because they believe that what they do is going to somehow or another bring peace and satisfaction. Many people mistake that, and instead of getting that peace and satisfaction, what they get is more anxiety, more stress, more fear. That's why most people in our societies are so stressed and so anxious. But what we can trust is that everybody is looking for that peace and satisfaction. But so what we can do is we can love people for their search for truth and for their search for peace, even if what they are doing is not the right thing, is not the right way to get that truth, to get that peace, to get that satisfaction. I know I'm not answering directly your question because I don't know how to. I will think a bit more, Anka, and maybe we'll come back to you another time. It's a beautiful question. Christina asked, could you tell us again about the difference between accepting things as they are, but still changing for better the thing that we can change? That's a whole discipline, a whole philosophy, a whole way of life. But in a few words, Christina, you accept what cannot be changed. And what cannot be changed? What is not in your control? And what is not in your control? What is not in your control is this second right now. This moment right now, it is out of your control. So what is in your control is your attitude towards this moment right now. And your attitude towards this moment right now is going to create a change in what you're going to do about this moment right now. We can say what is not in your control is other people are not in your control. So don't try to change other people. Try to change your attitude towards other people. And the change in your attitude maybe will make a change in other people. But you don't try to change other people. You try to change your attitude towards these other people. And this changing of attitude maybe will change somebody else, but maybe not. But your aim is not to change other people, but is to change your attitude towards other people. And the other thing you cannot change also is what appears to you. What appears to you in this moment, you cannot change it. What you can change is your attitude, and by changing your attitude, you will act. And that action will come from acceptance of what is. So instead of acting from a rejection to what is, I act from an acceptance. I act from love. And this acting, it will create an effect, maybe, in this moment. Actually, I wrote a letter very recently about something very similar to this. And actually, I asked a person, Florentina, I asked her to, I don't know if she's here now, but I asked her to work on this note, and I'm hoping to send this note on Sunday. When I send you the schedule for next week, for the event for next week, I will send you also this note about, it touches one aspect of this, what is that we can change and how to change it. I will come back to you, Christina, with more of it. So we've been here 1 hour and a half. I would love to keep going, but there were some more questions. Yes, Florentina is there. Thank you, Florentina. We can do this again, and I will try to organize it so we can do it in Zoom. And in Zoom, there is this possibility to have an exchange. We can talk to each other. So I will send you a schedule on Sunday with the note that Florentina will work on, and I will send you the link for the Zoom so we can do this again. I hope this was useful. I love to be here with you, and thank you very much. I wish you all the best, and here is my son again. So we see each other on Friday morning. If you want to, we have this yoga class at, I think it was 8:30 in the morning on Friday. Thank you to all, and see you Friday morning or see you next week for the events. Thank you. Ciao. All the best. Stile, ciao.
Goodbye.
Ciao.
Ciao.